whatever whatever APC leadership is doing, APC whatever they are doing is working. Is working.
Yes, it is working. And the people who call themselves the coalition, they have no. It was said that they have no democratic credentials, and are only interested in a power grab. Like I said, as evidenced by the way and manner in which they attempted to hijack, in quote, our party and throw out the original members.
Well, I think for starters, I think the intentions were clear. They wanted, a coalition and see how they can build a party that will face the ruling party and contest favorably at the national level.
Yes.
What they could have done easily was to follow democratic process and align with the founders of that party, and not just try to hijack it and make themselves the chairman and secretary and all that. Or if you can't do that, then form a new party, right?
Yes,
form a new party. Because as it is, how many months to the general elections and you're having these issues?
Yes.
I mean, people at APC will just smile and saying, strategies are working. We got them. It's free entry.
And you see, if those big wigs that came into the party, that is why those people that formed the ADC, from the beginning, I think they are credible people. If those people that came in now just lured them, dangled some carrots for them, with money.
Or maybe they didn't dangle enough carrots.
That is it.
Maybe they didn't dangle enough. Maybe they need to do. Well, more stories this morning. Still on page 13 of the Nigerian Tribune. Obi seeks clarity on 10.6 trillion naira approved for power sector debt in 2 years. Chieftain of the opposition African Democratic Congress ADC, Peter Obi. Well, are you sure he's not one of those that are sitting himself for?
Yes.
Peter Obi has demanded clarity from the federal government on the 3.3 trillion naira approved on April 6, 2026, the 3.3 trillion naira approved in May 2024. Wow, that's two different ones.
Yes.
And the 4 trillion naira bond approved in July 2024 for the power sector. In a post on his X handle on Tuesday, the former governor of Anambra State said Nigeria must move beyond recycled announcements and confront the power sector crisis with sincerity, transparency, and decisive reforms. According to him, until we do so, we will remain trapped in a cycle of debt and darkness. Is the 3.3 trillion naira approved on April 6, 2026 the same as the 3.3 trillion naira approved in May 2024? And how does it relate to the 4 trillion naira bond approved in July 2024? Well, he's just asking for clarity, and I think Nigerians also deserve that as well. Because I saw it online yesterday. Also, I forgot to share it online. The newspaper that reported that 2024 approval.
Yes.
Then this one. We don't need clarity. That's all.
Clarity, and it is just like I always say, a lot of politics going on in Nigeria. Now, more political stories here. APC, that is talking about the Oyo APC, All Progressives Congress. 2027, adoption of consensus candidates triggers controversy in Oyo. And I thought that they had agreed on picking a consensus candidate for a particular, post in the Oyo APC. But now we are
the list flying around. They said the list is not a genuine one.
Genuine one. The one I heard was that the list was switched.
Well, according to the official release of the APC, they've not released any name. So whatever is flying around is not genuine. That's according to it. So let's wait for official release from them.
Official release, but that is what is flying around.
Yes.
It even concerns some members of the State House of Assembly, some members of the Senate who are in APC, some members of the House of Reps. Let's just Well, the adoption of consensus candidates for elective positions in 2027 general elections has stirred controversy in the All Progressives Congress, APC in Oyo State, and the main stakeholders of the party in Ibadan Southwest and Northwest at the press conference on Tuesday awarded a level playing ground for all the aspirants rather than adopting consensus mode of selecting candidates. The party will be featuring 51 candidates for elective posts at the state and national levels in the 2027 general elections. And in order to ensure the success of the party, the affected constituents warned against the adoption of consensus candidates. I hope it is not a part of another, I don't know how to call it, an attempt to destabilize this party in Oyo State.
Because yes, and that's talking about Oyo APC, and looking at that party in Oyo State, they've got a lot of big, heavyweights who are also, looking to lead Agodi, to lead the government house and come next year, and consensus.
Because they had already agreed on consensus. Yes, they had already agreed. So I don't know why this one is coming up now.
Well, at this point, you know how consensus work at times. There are probably be inducements here and there and all of that. At the end of the day, the best way to approach things like this is to have democratic process rather than consensus. Because consensus, some people will still feel aggrieved.
Yes, but then at the same time, it has to, it will have to do with some thing.
Exactly what I meant by inducement, so to say. But then it's important that if you want to be a powerful and a heavyweight opposition, yours has to be in order. But then, you know how complicated APC is in Oyo State.
Yes.
You know how many bigwigs are jostling for the biggest seat in Oyo State. Now, how do you eventually pick one? The name that has been flying around, there's still a question mark on that name. People feeling that is it marketable enough? Is it not marketable enough? All of those things. So it's quite difficult. I'm sure the leaders. I understand that they will be meeting with the wife of the former governor of Oyo State, Chief Mrs. Florence Ajimabi, very soon to discuss this consensus and probably come up with a genuine name for that to carry that flag of APC come next year, the general elections. They need to put their houses in. They need to put their house in order to ensure that they post right, threats to the ruling party if they have what it takes to do so. Well, quick break on conversation this morning. We'll be back.
Wake up, it's choco time. Dano Choco is here with a taste you love. Just open the door and enjoy the chocolatey ride. Dano Choco 3 in 1. Ooh, taste it, love it. Dano Choco 3 in 1. Ooh, I love it.
Introducing the new Dano Choco 3-in-1. It's tasty, creamy, and satisfying. Taste it, love it.
Still conversation on OluyELETI 98.5 FM. We're still taking stories on the Nigerian newspapers this morning. Page 3. Federal government commences trial of 500 terrorism suspects in Abuja. 227 suspects arraigned on Tuesday. Trial to last 1 week.
I never knew that some 500 terrorist suspects were on ground for trial over these years. Well, they are still suspects. So we don't know what is really happening, because when I notice when I hear news that some people were abducted or trying to carry out some heinous crimes, and when they say, well, those abducted they were, brought out from the, enclaves of those terrorists. They were, released. I will not hear that some were arrested, some of the terrorists, some of the kidnappers, some of the bandits, which I always call criminals. We will not hear. You say you have, what now?
Secured release
yes, secured release of them, but no suspect will be
arrested.
Terrorists will be arrested. No terrorists will be maybe killed or maimed.
Apprehended.
And we just hear that now we are hearing that
500 terrorism suspects. Okay, let's hope things are changing and getting better.
Check out the year.
Well, the federal government on Tuesday commenced the trial of terrorism suspects before the Federal High Court sitting in Abuja. The trials of the suspects, who the Attorney General of the Federation AGF and Minister of Justice Prince Lateef Fagbemi SAN said are 500 in numbers, would be handled by 10 justices of the Federal High Court in Abuja. The trial, which usually takes place in Kanji in Niger State, was moved to the Federal High Court in Abuja since the court is currently on Easter vacation, which started on Tuesday, will end on April 13, 2026, and regular court sittings will resume on April 14 across all divisions of the Federal High Court. While the AGF, the Director of Public Prosecution of the Federation, Rotimi Oyedepo, SAN, and Becky Jibo, Chief State Counsel, appeared for the prosecution in the trial of the suspect. The Director General of the Legal Aid Council of Nigeria represented some of the suspects. The first suspect, Hamad Madu, who pleaded guilty to the 4-count charge bordering on rendering assistance to members of the Boko Haram, a proscribed group in the country, slammed against him by the federal government, was convicted and sentenced to 10 years imprisonment, each of the 4-count charge by Justice Binta Nyako. In another development, Isa Ali, another food supplier, also in Borno State, who equally pleaded guilty to the charges preferred against him, was handed a 10-year jail term by Justice Nyako. His jail term, the judge held, will start from 3 years ago, when he was arrested and held in detention. Justice Nyako ordered that the convict be put in any detention facility designated by the Ministry of Interior to undergo rehabilitation and rehabilitation at the end of their service of the jail term.
Yes.
Well,
and de-radicalization.
Yeah.
And now, like I said earlier, since 2003. This is 2026.
Yeah.
I think 2023, yes, 2023. And well, another one, Yahuza, one of the over 500 persons brought to various federal high courts in Abuja for trial by the AGF for aiding and abetting terrorism against the Federal Republic of Nigeria, admitted in the open court to committing the offense in 2023 and begged the court for forgiveness and leniency, which the judge rejected. The judge also rejected the claims that it was poverty that pushed him into supplying drugs, Indian hemp, and cigarettes to the Boko Haram members. That means all those that have been
supplying. The ones I read earlier also, food suppliers,
drugs, mobility, and all those. Not the real people that carry out the action.
All right, more stories this morning. And this, let's come to your state, where the Alafin is speaking on page 3 of the Nigerian Tribune, says,